Hey guys, welcome back to Quantum Customs. Today we are here back working on the 1972 Chevy Chevelle. So in the last episode, we got all of the sheet metal mocked up on the car, and the goal of this video is actually final welding all of the sheet metal on. So there are a couple little things that have to be done. As you can see, this piece is a little low in here. I have to modify this to bring it up a little bit. And then I'm gonna have to test fit my quarter and make sure my quarter fits perfectly on here with all the modifications that we had to make. So that's what we're gonna start doing, is getting our quarter mocked up on here and test fitting it, making sure it all looks good. And then we're gonna disassemble the entire back half of this car and get everything ready for welding. So let me show you exactly what I'm doing with this piece. This piece sits right here. The problem is it was sitting about that much low, but it was good on the bottom of the quarter. So what I decided to do is I just did a slit like this, and now I'm gonna put a piece of metal all the way in on this side. I'm gonna patch this, and then it will be able to go back in and sit flush with my trunk. I just put in these pieces to temporarily tack it in place because I know that's the gap that I need it to be. So when I fully weld it, I'll actually grind out those other pieces. That way it looks good.
It's mixed on the beat.
Okay, so I actually pulled the quarter back off because after I got this mocked up into place, I drew a line right where it overlaps. So my quarter edge sits right here, and this overlaps that much all the way around. So I'm going to trim this all the way back, get this thrown back on the car, and then throw my quarter on one more time to make sure everything fits good. Okay, so check this out. So the quarter is mocked up again. The door is latching. It opens perfectly. All my panels are lining up really, really good. Let me show you a closer look at this. So you can see this gap right here. It's not perfect. It widens a little bit towards the top, but don't worry about that. We're gonna fix that once we get the body back on the frame. But other than that, you can see the inside of the wheel well. It lines up perfectly. It looks really good. The hole underneath of this car is coming out absolutely amazing. The back half of this car, so it fits pretty good back here. It's got a little bit of a different arch right here, but we're gonna fix that when we start to do all of our body work. And then I've got to weld that seam up here that I had, that relief cut that I did, but we're gonna do that when I final weld the quarter all the way in. So trunk is latching, both of the quarters are on, both of the doors latch, which is freaking awesome. So I mean, the car it's coming. And I have no idea why this side was so difficult, but man, it was such a pain in the butt, this side. So I'm super happy to finally get it good to where everything looks good. And I'm still gonna have to tweak some things here and there when we do our final metal work, but other than that, it's coming out really nice. So we are pretty much done with the mock-up stage now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pull off the quarters, we're gonna pull off the trunk, we're gonna pull apart the whole rear of the car, the floor, everything's gonna come off of this thing, all the new panels that we put on, and we're gonna prep everything for final welding. So it's gonna come completely apart, it's gonna look worse than it did before, but then we're gonna put it back together and do a final weld on this, and it'll be a complete body. So let's get started.
This is Mixlop Production.
Alrighty, so we got the Chevelle completely torn apart. I got all my new parts laid out, all the ones that we're at least gonna be welding today. Firewall will probably be hopefully tomorrow, but we'll see. So all the new panels are laid out. We gotta prep everything. So all my edges, we gotta grind them to bare metal. Then we have to use this weld through primer on all of our edges. That way we can protect everything against the rust. After that, we're gonna seam seal everything so that everything looks solid. But I wanna show you guys the car real quick one more time. And this car still just blows my mind how much metal work we have to do to this thing. You can see, like, if we didn't have these drip rails at all, the whole back of the car would be gone, which is crazy. The floor would pretty much be gone. Oh, hi, Cubo. And then This car is just probably one of the craziest cars I've ever seen. I probably won't do anything like this for a while. But looking like this, it definitely looks a lot scarier than it is. Like if somebody brought me their car and were like, hey, can you do this? I don't know, I'd be kind of nervous. But pulling everything apart and knowing where everything goes really helps. Doing all those self-tappers and so I can realign the panels, that also really helps. Alrighty, so first things first is I need to protect all of this before we put anything on. So this piece needs to go on first, the door where the door striker goes. Once I get that welded on, then I'm going to rust seal all of this. I'm gonna put a ton right here, just because this is where the most rot was on the car before, because it all drips down and sits right there. So I'm gonna coat all of that, make sure it's got a couple good coats on that, and then do the same thing to the inner quarter on the other side. So let's get started. Well, I started getting that piece welded in and the tip of my welder actually broke off. It's still pretty hot. So that welder is trash. I'm gonna have to buy a new gun for it, but this is my new welder that I had ordered a couple of weeks ago. Now this actually does both voltages, so I'll be able to do all of the welding on the frame as well with this thing. See, it also comes with a spool gun and it comes with a TIG and the pedal, and it's pretty much a all-in-one welder. So I'm gonna get this thing unboxed and then we're gonna finish welding that piece up. Alrighty, so check that out. That is my new welder. It is a lot smaller than I thought it would be, which is kind of crazy, but I got all of my wire and everything already hooked up in it. What's really nice about this is I can do 220 and 110. So the way that it works is it has a 220 plug that can go right into my 220 where my compressor is, but then it also has this adapter that runs into my 110 and it automatically reads it, so you don't have to set it. So if I have it plugged in, like right now it's 110, it will set me to 110 voltages. That's super nice. And then other than that, everything looks really good. The gun looks really nice. It's super lightweight. I'm excited to see how this thing works. So I'm gonna jump back, weld the rest of this, and then move to prepping the entire inner quarter for the rust seal. Alrighty, so I decided to pull this thing outside and blow it off. It was absolutely filthy. I mean, you can see all the way over there. It just had stuff everywhere, but it's actually looking really clean inside now. So now I'm gonna get this moved back in the shop, and then it will be time to start laying the rust seal on the quarters, on the inner quarters, and then we'll move to getting ready to get everything welded in. Yeah, but I can't get over how crazy that looks. I can't believe I took on something like this. I think that the Blazer compared to this thing is gonna be an absolute breeze. I am so stoked to get back started on that thing. Hopefully in the next couple weeks, I'll be able to get the doors kind of fixed, getting them back on, and then I'll be able to start redoing all the body work and prepping this thing again.
It's mixed on the beat.
I got everything rust sealed, so all this black is the rust seal. You can paint that directly over the rust. That came out really nice. And then this is my weld through primer. It is around all of my spots where I'm gonna weld my quarter to the actual body. So I did it there, and I did it all the way along the bottom here as well. Both. So now that the body's all prepped, I'm gonna move to my trunk floor. I'm gonna grind all of the edges to bare metal, and then put weld through primer along all of the edges, and then we're gonna get that mocked up, screwed into place. And then we're also gonna get our inner and outer wheel wells mocked up and screwed into place, and then we'll weld all of this. After that, we'll go to welding our quarters on. So the trunk floor is screwed in on the front, and then it's supported same spot I had it right here on the back. Now I'm going to get my wheel wells, get those prepped, get all my holes drilled, and then get those screwed in. Alrighty, so I got both of my inner wheel wells completely mocked up, so they are ready to get welded in. But before I do that, I have to prep these outer wheel wells, get them all the way done, and then get them screwed in as well, just to make sure everything fits the way that it needs to be fitting. But I think I got enough progress done today, so I'm gonna head home, but I will see you guys here in the morning. Alrighty, so it is the next morning. I already went ahead and prepped these inner trunk pieces. They go right here. So they are ready. I just got to throw some weld through primer on them. And then last night we finished the inner wheel wells, but we're gonna get started on the outer wheel wells right now. I wanna get all of this mocked up. We're gonna weld all of this together, and then we'll move to the quarters. So let's get these prepped, get them on, and then we're gonna start welding. So inner and outer wheel wells are both on. Everything is just mocked up. So now we are going to start welding everything. I'm gonna come from this side on the inside, weld all of that, and then weld everything around here. So I'm gonna start on the driver, and then I'm gonna move to the passenger. I think I'm gonna wait to weld all of these down here because I wanna make sure that when my quarter goes on, it pulls my trunk up a little bit so it tightens my gap. So I'm gonna make sure all that's good, and then we'll do all the final welding done there. So let's get welding.
This is Mixloud Production.
Okay, so one side is all the way finished up. You see, I waited to do these back ones because I'm gonna see if this top piece is gonna get pulled forward at all. So now we're on the passenger side, and you can see all the spot welds that we have to fill. Now, when you weld these holes, you want to start in the middle and then work your way out in a circle. That way it melts really hot in the middle and then melts outwards. That way you have good penetration. So let's start welding. So all of my inner structure is pretty much done. I welded all the way along my bottom floor, and then wheel wells are all the way welded up. And then we'll do that. We went to the inside and we got that brace all the way welded in across. And then all of the main floor braces over here, they're all welded as well. So now all we have to do is a couple more welds on the floor, and then I have to go and clean up all my front and weld the front of the floor in. But after that, pretty much all of our metalwork in the rear will be finished up. I did about 6 to 7 hours of welding today, so I'm a little burnt out, but I will come back hopefully tomorrow and start back up and finish the welding on this thing. Okay, so I finally finished all the welding up front. Now I just went around and cleaned up all of my welds. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get some heavy bodied seam sealer. I'm gonna seam seal all of these seams, just the ones I can't get to, because my quarter is gonna cover this. So I'm gonna get started on that, and then I'm gonna rust seal all over the top of this. That way we don't have any rust issues. So I got my panels outlined in tape. That way I'm gonna use this 8308, this heavy bodied seam sealer. I'm gonna put on a glove. I'm gonna put it right in here and then smear it with my finger all along, and then pull the tape, and it leaves a really nice line. Alrighty, so after I pulled my tape, you could see how nice that line turned out and it sealed the panel perfectly. So I already scuffed my wheel oil and I'm gonna rust seal this entire thing. That way we have no issues of rust. I actually masked this bottom lip because this is where I weld my quarter to, and it's extremely hard to weld through this rust seal. So not only did I seam seal here, I also seam sealed around this edge because all the water will come in here and then go inside these, and I don't want anything going inside the car. So I'm gonna get ready and I'm gonna rust seal this side and the other side. Alrighty, so look at that. That looks absolutely beautiful. So I just coated everything in that rust seal, so now I don't have to worry about the inside of this ever rusting out. I also got the back side where my welds were. And if we come around the car, you can see I did the same thing to this side. Not only that, I panel bonded this whole area here where I welded just for support and strength because I don't want that to crack out, but turned out really nice. I put 3 coats on this spot right here where all the water comes, so that's pretty protected. So now we are pretty much ready to get the quarters on. I started prepping all of these. I have to drill a ton of holes and zinc primer them and then do the same thing to this one here. But I'm gonna come back tomorrow morning and do that. So tomorrow we're gonna get the quarters mocked up again. We're gonna get the trunk on. We're gonna get that rear tail piece on, everything mocked up in place. All these are gonna be prepped and ready to weld, so when we know everything looks good, we're gonna final weld everything, and then all of the metalwork on the rear will be completely finished. Okay, so I got the driver quarter pretty much all the way prepped. I was able to punch a lot of these holes here, but some of these have to go farther in and my punch doesn't reach, so I actually had to drill them all. So I got all of those drilled. You can see there's a absolute ton of them. And then all along this, I had to drill. There's probably like 40 holes right there, but I got them drilled. I'm going to zinc prime all the backs of these now. That way it gets corrosion protected, and then it will get mocked up on the car. And then I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side and that back panel. So tonight I'm mainly gonna focus on getting everything mocked up, and then probably tomorrow I'll come in and we will final weld everything. And just a quick note, I actually had to throw my quarterback on here, which, I mean, it took me like 2 minutes, but you wanna go around and make sure and mark all of the areas where your quarter overlaps. That way you know where to drill your holes, because it sucks when you drill a hole. Say if I drilled a hole right here, that would do me nothing and I just have to weld it up. So go around and mark everything. Make sure your wheel wells look perfect and flush all the way around so all your spot holes line up, and then same thing up here. You just want to make sure everything looks good when you get ready to weld. Okay, so I pulled the quarter back off and I've got over here on my stand, and I just want to show you exactly what I did. So I marked right where the edge of the inner quarter goes, and now I'm drilling all of these holes. And this is where I'm going to weld on this back side into here. That way you know that all of the holes are gonna hit. So I'm gonna get all these drilled, and then both of my quarters will be finished, and then it'll be time to go to that back piece and knock that thing out. Alrighty, so I finished drilling all of the holes in this rear tail piece. I got this completely prepped. I'm gonna throw in some weld through primer right now. You can see both of my quarters. They are completely prepped and ready to go. So now what the plan is I'm gonna get these quarters, I'm gonna get that rear tail piece, and I'm gonna throw them on the Chevelle. We're gonna screw everything in, get it mocked up where it's supposed to be. And then after that, we're gonna get my deck lid thrown on, make sure all the gaps are good there. And then also we're gonna throw on both doors, throw on the latches, make sure everything closes, make sure all of the gaps have stayed where they should be. And then after we've verified that all of our gaps are good, we hopefully can start welding. So we're gonna start by throwing all these panels on, getting the trunk and the doors on, and going from there. Alrighty, so all of the panels are on. Everything is looking good. The gaps are pretty good. I still have to use some pliers and get my quarter a little bit tighter up there. But other than that, everything is turning out perfect. All of my screw holes lined up, and that's what you want. If these screw holes don't line up, that means you welded something on wrong. and every single one so far has lined up, which is really good. And then gaps look great. The doors lined up really nice. They latch, so I can actually open and close these. So that's awesome. So now we know that everything fits correctly. The next step is final weld the whole rear. I have to spot weld all these holes in here, and then also I have to spot weld all these holes along the bottom. Not only that, I have to finish all this back here, so I have to get all this tight, do the bottom here, all the way around, and then also inside my trunk jam. So I have a ton of spot welding to do, but I'm gonna come on Saturday and finish all of that up. That will finish up the whole entire rear of this car. Okay, so I pretty much got the passenger quarter all the way welded up that seam. I was welding this seam right here, and then all of a sudden I noticed my welds were getting kind of crappy, and I'm out of gas. So gas store doesn't open till Monday, so Monday I'm gonna go get gas, and then Monday night I'll jump on that other side and try and get that other side welded up, but it's almost there. Alrighty, so it is Monday now. I finally went to the gas store and got a bigger cylinder, so now I have more gas. I actually purchased that, so I'm not renting it anymore. I also got a ton of wires so I can do the frame and finish all of my sheet metal. So this quarter is pretty much all the way finished. I went ahead and finished up all these welds in here, and then not only that, I finished all the welds along this. So now that this side is pretty much done, remember I'll do all of this once the car is back on the frame, and we'll get all of that taken care of. So now we're gonna move to the other side. We got a ton of work to do, but I'm hoping I can knock out this quarter tonight. So I'm gonna get everything moved over, get all this cleaned up, and we're gonna jump on that side of the Chevelle. Okay, so this quarter is finally all the way welded on. You can see I started right here in the front, got all of this welded right here, and then I moved my way back. I got everything welded inside here, and then I actually had the same issue here where this inner wheel well was a little bit too tight, so I had to do a relief cut, and then I could weld it to the floor, and then I had to weld it back up. So I had to do the same thing on that side. I jumped over and did that. Back here's welded, all the way up around here's welded. Got the whole seam up along the rear window welded, and then I came under here, welded all of this. I actually had forgotten to weld that side, so I went ahead and welded all of that. So now the whole entire rear of this car is completely welded. I haven't welded here yet because I think I'm gonna have to modify this a little bit just to get the bumper to tuck up in. So I will fully weld that when we get this back on the frame. So like I said, some of this I'm not gonna be doing right now, like these. I'm not gonna be doing any of that until I get my body back on my frame. And when I start doing all my gaps, that's when I'll finish all of the metal work, all the little metal work that's left, like up there at the top of those quarters. So I was a little bit worried about all the fumes from the welder, so I've been wearing this mask. That's why I have these insane marks on my face, but super exciting. The entire back of the car is completely finished. Both quarters are completely welded on. All of our metal work in the rear is pretty much done all the way down. I mean, everything is brand new. Alrighty, since the entire back of the car is done, the next step will be to move to the firewall and get the entire firewall cut off. I gotta move these mounts, and I also am replacing these body mount brackets right here. So that's gonna be in the next episode on this 72 Chevelle. I actually have my F-150 in my shop right now because I have to do phases on it. So I'm gonna do that this weekend, and then next week, we're gonna start back up and get the metalwork finished up on the Chevelle. But that'll be it for this episode on the Chevelle. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to like and follow not only on YouTube, but also on TikTok. And let me know if you guys are liking this build in the comments below. Remember, after all the metalwork is done on the Chevelle, we're actually gonna start back up on the Blazer, get it on the body cart, and then we're gonna start up the Blazer series again. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.